Hey, what's going on, good people? Armand Owens here with you once again with another episode of the Daily Unsung Leadership Nugget. Hey, today I want to talk a little bit about a syndrome that is specifically for the Chiefs mess, specifically for my military listeners out there. Even though it can apply across the board, it mainly shows itself in this realm. It's the I made it syndrome. The I made it syndrome shows up when a person has done all the work for themselves to make sure that they have met every possible qualification in preparation for being a chief. The grind, the taking the extra duties, the staying late at work, and all those things that's necessary to get the best possible performance out of themselves, knowing that the ultimate goal is to be a chief petty officer. Unfortunately, I've seen this way too much. It's the I made it syndrome. It's once they got to the level of chief petty officer, once you get to the level of chief petty officer, it's I made it. And they no longer challenge themselves. They no longer feel as though they have to do the work. Ego creeps in. Start to feel good in that uniform. And they never grow past that point. The uniqueness of the chief petty officer is that everything that you've done up until you get selected is for yourself, pretty much, because at the end of the day, it's about what you have done. It's about what you have accomplished. It's about the mastery of yourself, knowing that whatever trade, whatever rating you have become the one of the best at it. You've figured out how to get the best out of yourself. The dynamic of being a chief petty officer and above is that it's no longer about getting the best out of yourself. It's about how to get the best out of the people that you lead. And that challenge requires a level of maturity that requires an individual to continue to grow, to continue to challenge themselves, to continue to question what they know. One of the key attributes I utilize in judging whether or not somebody is ready for the next level as it pertains to becoming a chief of the boat, becoming an EDMC, or just going to the next level is if an individual is willing to question what they believe. If an individual is willing to question these paradigms that they've held true. For example, when I was a chief of the boat, I knew that I could affect anything that I could touch. Any area that I showed up in, I knew I could make a positive difference. But that's still focused on still focused on what I was able to accomplish. Well, I knew that once I got past that point, that it's no longer going to be about what I can affect, about what I can do. So I knew that I had to focus on being able to get the best out of my Chiefs mess, the best out of the people that I lead, because I wasn't going to always be there, especially as you continue to ascend. And right now I have the privilege of being at Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard, and I can't touch everything. We have a myriad of buildings, people spread out all over Pearl Harbor base, and I have to trust the leaders in our Chiefs mess, in our wardroom, to do their jobs, because I can't touch everything. I can't be every place. So that paradigm that I held in my head about it's all about me. It's all about what I can touch. If I can touch it, I can fix it. That had to go out the window because it was no longer relevant. How are you going to be able to affect something that you can't put your hands on? That's why the consistent growth has to be prevalent. You can't ever say, I made it. Like I said, unfortunately, I see it too much in our chief petty officers. I see us no longer picking up, the technical documentations, even though our knowledge has clearly been superseded by the upgrades. You can't operate on gear, on systems that are 2019 based on 2012 knowledge. But yet and still, we got chief petty officers out here doing that. Got chief petty officers that believe that, hey, I don't have to continue to grow emotionally because I'm a chief. So when a compromising situation arises, instead of making the right ethical choice, they make the wrong choice. You cannot allow the I made it syndrome to affect you as a chief petty officer. And that's just as a leader in general. And truthfully, it's not just about the chief petty officer, it's about any leader. When you get in that position, you can't allow the I made it syndrome to affect you, to overtake you. Because it slips in, it convinces you that you look good, that you are good, and that you don't need to do another thing. It's funny that that human beings are the only entity in nature that can choose to stop growing. My uncle would liken it to stagnant water. I remember when I was a young kid walking to the park, and my uncle, showed me, the difference, between running water, which was, we went to go see a creek, in my Georgia, back in my Georgia days, looking at a creek, the running water. He told me that was life. Life is in running water. But on the other side, there was standing water. And there's nothing in stagnant water, but death and mosquitoes. And mosquitoes, come to drain the life out of you. So when you're stagnant, that's the only thing it produces. Life draining mosquitoes. So you have to keep moving. You have to keep growing. Life is in progression. You have to keep progressing. Never stop challenging yourself. Never stop growing. Never stop learning. And never assume that you got it all figured out. Never assume that you got it all figured out. That's one of the biggest hindrances, to leadership, is that we figure that we think we got this thing figured out. And we don't. I know I don't. I'm consistently having conversations with, my chief mess, consistently having conversations with my mentors, consistently reading, consistently exposing myself, to more information so that I can be the best possible leader for the people that I have the privilege of leading. Because if I ever stop growing, then I put a lid on their capacity to progress. And they deserve better. The people that we lead deserve better than us choosing to stop. So watch out for that syndrome. Watch out for it. And it appears in various ways. And the main way is thinking that you got it figured out. If you're getting advice, if you're getting information, from somebody, one of your peers, a mentor, and you find yourself saying, yeah, I know, more often than not, you've probably been infected. Acknowledge it, understand it, and begin to grow from it. Because we can all overcome it. So if you find yourself saying, yeah, I know, in response to somebody giving you some feedback, you've probably been infected. So keep that in mind. This was derived from a conversation that I was having, earlier today, but I wanted to put it out, and I'm curious to know what you think out there. So like, share, comment, please let me know what you think out there, and I look forward to the feedback. And have a wonderful weekend, people. Unsung Leader out.